So we're here with Tom Nichol, the distiller for Tanqueray Gin. It's great to see you stateside at the Diageo bar.
Yeah, it's nice to be here. It's always nice to come to New York.
Now, how long have you been the distiller for Tanqueray?
Only for about 8, 9 years now.
8, 9 years.
I was producing whiskey before that.
What whiskey were you producing?
It was grain whiskey. It was
Grain whiskey.
You make grain whiskey. Yeah.
So we've tasted your stuff in blends before, yes?
Yeah. Definitely.
So when you take on the job of an iconic spirit like Tanqueray, what's the perspective on coming to that, knowing that everybody knows what it tastes like, it's got such an existing sort of kind of pour base, shall we say? How do you approach that brand when you come to work on that?
Well, I'm passionate about the brand. That's one thing. I just feel that sometimes brands get left in the sort of past, they get forgotten about. So Tanqueray number 10 needs this sort of boost. I mean, it's a fantastic gin. I just think people forget about it. So for me, it's just showing how passionate I am about it. And probably telling people that it really is a difficult gin to make. So it's quite technical, but I've said it before. I would make it for nothing.
You'd make it for nothing.
Yeah.
So, for people who aren't familiar, or for people who are, because sometimes the things that we know and are very familiar with, we don't really pay all that much attention to it. We know it, we think we know it. So for somebody maybe even drinks both Tanqueray and Tanqueray 10, how do you characterize the differences between Tanqueray and Tanqueray 10?
Well, Tanqueray was, the actual balance in Tanqueray London Dry is fantastic. There is only 4 botanicals in there. So to get a gin that tastes as good as Tanqueray London Dry does, it needed that perfect balance. Tanqueray number 10, it was designed really for martinis, so I had to do something different, something special.
Right.
So it has the base ingredients that Tanqueray London Dry has, but then it has added citrus fruit and it's fresh fruit.
Right.
And it's difficult to distill fresh fruit, so I distill it in a small still, tiny 10 we call it. That's the fresh fruit side, that's the citrus side. And the product from that then goes into the main still with the other ingredients and chamomile flowers. But the whole thing about Tanqueray number 10 is because of the added citrus, we upset the balance.
Right.
So I added more juniper, more coriander, just upped it a bit to get that balance back again, because that's what makes a fine gin.
Now, I find like the mid palate of 10 to have kind of a rooty, you have obviously all that fresh citrus around there, but the core is different than I feel like Tanqueray is. Is it the coriander we're tasting? Is it the angelica root? What really defines the core of Tanqueray 10?
I think the chamomile flowers, that puts a real added boost there, and it kind of sets it apart. But the fresh limes and that we use as well. Limes are pretty difficult things to work with. I'm sure that any bartender will tell you. To get consistency there isn't easy. But the fact that orange, we use Florida oranges, we only use one in a whole batch of Tanqueray number 10.
One orange?
One orange.
Ah.
And I guarantee that you will taste orange in Tanqueray number 10. So that to me sets it apart. It's the flavour inside. It's a really well balanced gin.
So, mixing with Tanqueray 10, is there, when you talk about the martini, is there a specific vermouth, or is there something that specifically you feel like, if you're going to make the ultimate Tanqueray 10 martini, what do you feel?
I'll leave that to bartenders. I'm not a bartender, I just make this stuff. And these guys are experts.
So, given that you're working with fresh citrus, how, and even, let's talk about juniper. Juniper's different every year. You get a cold season, you get a hot season, you get a wet season, you get a dry season. It's a product. How do you maintain the Tanqueray taste with a moving target of ingredients?
Well, to get the consistency, if I buy 5 tons of juniper, and then the next 5 tons I buy, like you say, it could be slightly different. But I'll never make a batch from 1 5 ton. I'll take some from actually 6 different batches. And then it gets added into a sort of larger vat. It keeps that consistency. I don't think anybody would be able to tell Tanqueray London Dry apart any other time.
Yeah.
Tanqueray number 10 is different because it's in smaller batches, but hopefully we still do have the consistency.
Now, the gin category is a wild one from a business point of view. It goes up 3 points, goes down 3 points, but the premium side of the gin equation seems to be, something that there's continuing growing interest. Do you address that with, bringing back, you brought back Malacca? Do you do that by new products, or do you feel like, where Tanqueray is, you do it with the core product? It's Tanqueray at 10.
Yeah, it's generally the core product that we're using, but I mean, we can diversify that bit. We move on. It's very difficult to make a new gin. Extremely difficult. We went for months on end, and the whole project's been scrapped because it's not good.
Really?
And we don't. We're too good a company to put out products just for the sake of putting out a new product. So hopefully, when something new comes out, it can be totally linked to Tanqueray.
What makes making a gin so hard?
It's the balance. It's simple as that. You don't. It's like mixing paint. You could end up with a muddy-looking colour, and if you mix paint, you could end up with a nice colour.
Mm-hmm.
It's just getting that balance right. And the good thing is we've got that balance right from the very start.
Yeah.
Although the wheel was invented there back in 1830, we're just refining it.
Mm-hmm. So, what is the secret to balance?
Quantities.
Quantities?
Yeah, it's as simple as that. So if you put too much juniper in, then it's too much juniper sort of lead. But the balance between the juniper, coriander, angelica, licorice, it's all got to be right.
Mm-hmm. So over the 8 or so years you've been distiller at Tanqueray, have you changed at all what you do? Have you, is what you do today the same that you did 8 years ago, or has the way you've come to at the gin differently, or even the way it's produced changed at all?
No, it's produced exactly the same way. Nothing's changed. I'm just a small cog in the machine, really. That, just tap to the person who makes it. But I don't see any reason to change anything when it's good to start with. And I don't need to say these things.
Uh-huh.
I'm not paid to be sort of the whole thing for Tanqueray. I just think it's nice. I like to make nice things.
And how do you enjoy your gin? Which of the Tanqueray line do you tend to gravitate towards, and how do you drink it?
Tanqueray London Dry is definitely a Tanqueray and tonic with good tonic water. That's one thing I really.
Yeah, we don't have that in the United States. Not nearly as well as you.
Well, people say that they don't like the gin and tonic, but I think it's the tonic they don't like. Really.
Yeah.
And Tanqueray number 10 is definitely a martini.
Martini.
Yeah, but I'll leave it to the bartender
to figure out is it equal parts? Is it 3 to 1? Is it?
Yeah, it's, like I say, the other professionals, I couldn't stand behind the bar and make thousands of different cocktails. I just need to make 4 gins.
Malacca came back. Is it going away again? Do you think is it? I know it was a limited. Is that something that might stick around?
Well, I did say at the time that I wouldn't make it again, but you never know. I think we've been quite innovative. We're looking at other things as well, and the whole thing is to keep Tanqueray in the limelight, because it tends to be forgotten because you get lots of new gins coming on the scene, and some of them are good, but most of them are bad. But I mean, it's the way that they portray things. But we like to say, well, look, you still have Tanqueray London Dry there. That's been about for 180 years.
Right.
So it's just keeping the things in the sort of limelight as such. Remembering people, this is really a good gin.
So when you're producing a batch of Tanqueray, how much adjustments do you have to? I mean, are you finding that every batch you're adjusting for balance, or do you have a consistent recipe where we do this and we get that?
It's very consistent. Very consistent. I mean, even the fruit that I use in Tanqueray number 10, that gets delivered, 6 o'clock in the morning, and the guy chaps the door and he's got the fruit from me. But the other ingredients that I put in, it's all meticulously weighed. I mean, it's right to the, and the distilling itself is right to the second.
Wow.
I don't muck about. It's kind of like bacon, as you say. You've got to be precise with your ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't possibly say, I'll just put in some more juniper there.
8+ years on the brand. Is there a highlight for you that's really stuck out, that's been a real, kind of apex or shining moment for you with the brand?
Well, it was definitely, I wasn't at the conception of Tanqueray number 10 because that was in 2000, so that was 14 years ago. So the first time that I actually made a batch, that was I was just blown away completely. It was amazing. You've got to remember, I get this sort of, when I'm making it, I get all the different changes that goes through the distillation. It was fantastic. 1 hour in, and I just thought, listen, I'm getting paid to make this. Yeah, this is fantastic.
Is there a stage in the distillation where the aromatics or the presence of the spirit is particularly exceptional?
For Tanqueray number 10, it's definitely the first hour. So it just comes on to the first hour and it just peaks. I think it's the chamomile that's just starts to sort of really release itself, and then all the other aromas they start coming in. It's nice. It's really nice just to smell it. I'd like everybody to make it, to be honest with you, just to get the chance to actually nose it. That's what people just don't.
Have you experimented at all with aging gin? I know that there's kind of a small little aged gin universe out there. Have you ever had Tanqueray out of a barrel before?
No, but you never know. Innovation comes along, and we'll have a whole innovation team that will come up with ideas, and then it's up to us to see if it will work. And then if it does work, then we'll carry on.
Great.
And then it's left to me, it's handed to me to still make a batch now. We'll make a massive batch.
Well, congratulations on the relaunch of Tanqueray 10, and thanks for taking some time.